Beer Board minutes of September 11th as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I will abstain as I was absent.
Okay. Then the next item and only item on the agenda is consider approval for an off-premise beer permit for Publix Tennessee LLC at 11656 Parkside Drive.
Yes, as you said, this purpose of this agenda item is to approve the off-premise beer permit for Publix. They meet all their criteria, all their background checks came back clean, and the motion is to approve the off-premise beer permit for Publix at 11656 Parkside Drive, subject to obtaining the certificate of occupancy.
Okay. Anybody here have any comments or questions about this? Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
If we could review again our proximity to church and school rules on these kinds of things. What are our guidelines?
340 feet.
For both?
Mm-hmm.
This meets that.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
Yes, when do we plan for them to be open, out of curiosity? Oh, good.
There's a lot of excitement for it, I know that. Anything else anybody has for a question? All right. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve an off-premise beer permit for Public Tennessee LLC, 11656 Parkside Drive, subject to obtaining a certificate of occupancy.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. That will conclude the December 13th, 2012 Beer Board meeting for the town of Farragut.
All right, so it's now time for the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for December 13th, 2012. This will be the last meeting of this board this year. We'll start again in January. We'll start by rising for a moment of silent prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
You wanna get the scouts?
Now, would the scouts like to come down and lead the Pledge of Allegiance? But not now, but after we take a moment of silence. Okay, now.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, boys, for being here.
First item is approval of the agenda. I think we have one item listed here that we are not going to take up tonight, and that's D, approval of contract for information technology services. Correct. So with that one change, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item is Mayor's report. I'm happy to tell you that we hosted the Tennessee Municipal League District 2 meeting today. We had, 50-some people from other municipalities in District 2, and it was very informative. Also, 4 of us attended the National League of Cities annual convention in Boston recently. We always come back with a lot of information and tips. So, anybody else have anything to report at this point?
Just want to thank the town for giving us the opportunity to attend these conventions.
So the next item is presentation of comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2012.
Yes, sir. Mark Lund with Ingram, Overholt, and Bean is here to present the CAFR for the year ending June 30th, 2012.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman. It's a pleasure to be here to present your comprehensive financial report. As Allison said, my name is Mark Lund, and I'm with Ingram Overholt and Bean. Just like to briefly go over a few things with the report. First, I'd like to go over the opinions that appear in the report. We issue two opinions, one on the financial statements, which you can find on page 11, which is right behind the first page of section 2. I'd like to briefly just tell you what the opinion states in summary form. I'm happy to report again this year that we have issued the most favorable report to the town that can be issued on a set of financial statements. An unqualified opinion, which means we did not find any material misstatements that would require us to qualify the opinion. You can actually find the opinion in the third paragraph of the letter, and it basically says the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town of Farragut as of June 30th, 2012, and the respective changes in financial position. The other opinion we issue, it can be found in the very back of the report. It's our opinion on the internal controls and compliance of the town. Again, I'm happy to report that we found no deficiencies in the internal control structure of the town that would require reporting to the mayor and board. Also, we found no instances of non-compliance with any laws or regulations for the items that we tested during the course of our audit. I'd like just to take just a minute or two just to point out some financial highlights. If you've not read the report, what I would suggest that you would do is start with the management's discussion and analysis, and also the notes to the financial statement. Read those before you look at any other numbers, because they will provide more information in a narrative form than just looking at straight numbers. But I'd like to go to Allison's management and discussion analysis letter and point out page 15. If you want to turn to that page, that's fine. Just going over the summary financial information there on the net asset statement. As you can see, current assets grew from $13.4 million from fiscal year end of June 30th, 2011 to $14.6 million in this past fiscal year, primarily from an increase in cash and investment reserves. Total assets went from almost $42 million to $44 million during that same time period also. As you can see, liabilities remain fairly constant. They were $333,000 in 2011 and $353,000 in 2012. Net assets increased as a result of the increase in the overall assets of the town, going from $41,500,000 to $43,800,000. On page 16 is a summary of the operating activities of the town. Total revenues went from $8.9 million to $9.3 million, a modest increase. The increase primarily comes from taxes based on consumer spending, sales tax and alcohol beverage commission taxes. So that shows that the economy in the town is good. The consumers are spending money because of the increase in the tax revenues. The revenues that did decrease were the state shared income taxes. Those were down slightly, and also the fines and were down because of changes in the state law regarding the electronic devices at the intersections, traffic lights. That's basically what I wanted to point out as far as a brief summary of the financial position. The statements will provide much more detail. The fund financial statements, the government-wide statements, the supplementary information statistical section will all provide much more detail on the town's activities for the year. If there are any questions, I would be happy to try to answer those for you at this time.
I thought you did a great job.
Well, thank you.
It was written very well.
Well, thank you.
I will make a comment, if I may. Being the newest member of this board, I need to give great applause to the other members that sit up here and really all of our predecessors, because this community has been run very well since its beginnings. There was comments earlier about attending the National League of Cities meeting recently, and I've only had the opportunity to go to a couple of these events so far. But they are very informative. But I tell you, some of the best conversations are those that happen in the hallway. And when you get to talk to elected officials from other parts of the country, and you have conversation about just the financial piece of your community, and they hear about our town, they look at me like I'm from outer space, because they said this cannot be true. I've only had one community that is in our league, if you will, and that was up in Boston. I sat next to a gentleman from Florida. I don't remember the name of the town. The town was formed 8 years ago, so we look like old dogs compared to them, which was unusual in itself, by the way. And they also are debt-free, money in the bank, and they pay cash for everything they do. And it was interesting because he looked at, I found somebody that understood me, and he found somebody that understood him. But it's worth noting that this community is truly blessed being in the financial position that it's in, and it's come through the hard work of staff, the leadership of this community for many, many years. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank everybody for the great job they've done.
We can also note that 84% of the cities and towns in this nation are in financial distress. That doesn't include us.
And Mayor, I'd like to point out that our town recorder, Ms. Myers, does a fantastic job putting this document together, and with obviously our auditor's help, and without her and her staff keeping all of our financials straight, we'd be in trouble. So again, I want to help give a big kudos to her and her staff.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
No motion is needed, right?
No, sir.
All right. The next item is Citizens Forum. Do we have anybody signed up?
I do not, sir.
Okay. Next item is approval of the minutes of the last meeting, November the 8th. Everybody okay with the minutes?
I've read them. They appear to be in order, so I make a motion that we approve the minutes from last meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item is the first reading of Ordinance 12-18, Ordinance establishing a Community Health Council.
Thank you, Mayor. The Knox County Health Department has been working on a community health project called Together Healthy Knox since 2010. And the goal of the project is to increase the overall health and well-being of everybody in our community, and not only Farragut, but also the city of Knoxville and Knox County as well. The purpose of this ordinance before you is to establish a community health council, which will be charged with evaluating the performance of the health system overall in the county, establishing strategic objectives, and improving health as an overall goal for our community. The council can be comprised of no more than 21 members. The mayor of each city and the county will get a appointed position on this, as well as the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, the City Council for Knoxville, and also the County Commission. So there's going to be a good mixture of folks from different parts of the county that will be on this council. With this, obviously, the overall goal is just to really increase health awareness in our community and do everything we can from a town's perspective on increasing that awareness as well. We have Kathy Brown with us here tonight from the Knox County Health Department, and she's available to answer any specific questions that the board may have about this. But this is actually going before not only our board, but also the city of Knoxville and also Knox County to establish the same ordinance for each of those entities as well.
I had a question. I was just curious, the time frame for this kind of a project, given the rather lofty goals that are spelled out here, that's a lot to put on the plate.
This is really a long-term sustained process and planning group that will be in place from here forward. What we really hope to achieve, and we've been working on this through a group that has adopted the name Together Healthy Knox, is to establish something that is long-term, that will look at, assess the health of the community, the broader community, on a county level, approximately every 5 years, 3 to 5 years, conduct strategic planning And hopefully it's to incorporate health as a consideration into a lot of the decisions that are made, not just as how we think about health, but when we're conducting improvements around development and really a comprehensive approach so that health is a consideration. So we hope that this is something that doesn't have an endpoint, but rather something that's initiated and becomes part of how we live our lives in Knox County.
Is this unique, or is there anyone else or any other entities or groups doing anything similar to this right now?
Around the country and the state.
Here in East Tennessee?
There are other, we utilize, we're using a process called MAP, which is a strategic planning process that a lot of city and the health departments and counties use. There have been other, Nashville, Davidson County has conducted a similar process. There are areas in Kentucky. Those are just immediate. In Chattanooga has conducted some similar processes. Ours, as we've approached it and applied the MAP process, is not totally unique, but we are attempting for it to be as comprehensive as possible and as inclusive as possible.
And just one last question. In terms of Farragut, how is this applied to the people that live here? And what I could see Knox County, because they're involved with some state initiatives and different kinds of things, but I'm just curious from kind of Farragut's perspective on this, other than in another municipality to include.
Well, we're all part of Knox County. I live in this area, so it's really important to me that we know that if we are achieving an improved health status for any sector of the county, it has benefits to all of us. And so to approach this as the largest, on the largest level that we can, which we think of as Knox County, I mean, that is the beginning and ending of my responsibility in terms of my position, but issues and conditions and challenges don't begin and end and observe lines of communities, whether they're zip codes or even the county. But because we look at it and have to have some kind of boundary, we look at it as being very important to have Farragut included, because it's a huge part of Knox County, and the conditions and challenges here have an influence on those that occur in other parts of the county and vice versa. So we see it as very important to be together on this, to have the most positive effect on the broadest sense of community that we have. Welcome.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Kathy Brown.
Ms. Brown, I want to acknowledge the Knox County Health Department taking on this initiative. It's ironic, the mayor mentioned that we just got back from Boston and that we learned lots of things there. And it's ironic that I had to go to Boston to learn that Knoxville really pioneered a food policy in 1982, which is kind of a model for the rest of the nation through the University of Tennessee, and that we have been conscious of these things. And so I'm really glad to see that we are following up with that initiative, and certainly glad that Farragut is included. Boston has a program, a very active program. It's making a dent. I don't think most people realize how bad off we really are as a nation, that the United States, a nation of 300 million people, spends more on health care, which is not really health care, it's sickness care, than the entire gross national product of India, 1 billion people. It's a cost that we can't sustain. It's not sustainable, and we're really in the middle of an epidemic. And if we become a weak, sickly nation, we can't compete internationally in the global economy. And this is something we really need to take on. So I acknowledge Knox County, and certainly hope that we will, as a town, take an active part and have people active in this group that can make a dent in this growing national problem.
Thank you. You have a health department that's working for the county that has a commitment to being one of the best, if not the best, health departments in the country. We are proud to be leaders, taking on some of the challenges around health of our community, that it's not just about treating the sick. It's about getting upstream and getting ahead and incorporating prevention so that we are an economically and personally viable community that has a lot to offer both individuals in terms of being a place where they want to live, as well as on that economic side, being a place that attracts economic opportunity and investment. And unless you have a healthy community and a very dynamic community, you don't have individuals, children that can learn, or individuals who present a viable workforce. So we look to be part of very much the solution and part of the dynamic future of Knox County.
Excellent.
Very good.
So we have to vote on this, right?
I'll
Any
move for
discussion?
approval.
I would very cheerfully second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Next is business items, and the first is approval of certificate of compliance for Corks Wine and Spirits.
Yes, sir. This is agenda item is for the approval of the certificate of compliance for Corks Wine and Spirits for an off-premise liquor store at 11667 Parkside Drive. Before any applicant can receive a license for the establishment of an off-premise liquor store, the applicant shall make application for their certificate of compliance for a specific location and be granted such certificate for such specific location by the town of Farragut Board of Mayor and Aldermen as required by the Tennessee Code annotated 57-3-208. The number of off-premise liquor stores that may be issued for locations within the town shall not exceed 5 stores. Currently, there are 4 stores within the town limits. Corks Wine and Spirits is the applicant for the off-premise liquor store. The partners are Patrick and Dana McElveen. Hope I'm saying that right. And they are here if you have any questions. The applicant has complied with all the records and advertising requirements. And the motion is to approve their certificate of compliance, for the off-premise liquor store permit for Corks Wine and Spirits.
Does the applicant wish to say anything?
Where's the store physically located? It's next to Longhorn Steakhouse. I mean, new shops. Next to, is it part of the Publix, the new Publix center there? Okay. And staff, you all have reviewed the proximity to schools and churches and all the
Yes, sir.
thoroughly in compliance? Okay.
This would be number 5 then, right?
This will be number 5.
Thank you.
Any discussion or motion?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Welcome to Farragut.
Next item is approval of request for supplement for additional engineering services from CDM.
CDM Smith. Yes, this is a request for a supplemental agreement for additional work that was required outside of the original scope of services for the design of the Watt Road Old Stage Road project. In 2008, the board approved a contract with Wilbur Smith Associates, who is now CDM Smith, for the design of that project. They had a total lump sum fee of $294,450. As that project has progressed along, and we've had numerous right-of-way negotiations with the adjacent property owners, we've requested revisions to the original design that have been outside the scope of their original contract. Most of those have been minor. There have been one or two that have been more than minor, but they are requesting an additional payment for their services for $16,833. We've reviewed this request and the additional services that it represents, and we find this to be certainly acceptable on our part. So staff recommends approval of the supplement request from CDM Smith for $16,833.
Daryl, you mentioned this is pretty standard for this type of project, this kind of an increase at this stage of the game. Is that
It really is. It's not unusual at all.
on the subject of this project? If you would give us maybe an update on where we are on this in terms of.
Okay, I was going to do that right after this, but TDOT let that project on Friday. It was in their letting. There were 9 bidders. Bidding was very tight, very competitive. The low bid was just under $2.5 million. We're very pleased with the low bidder. The contract has not been awarded yet, so I'm not going to say who it was. I will update you as soon as the contract is awarded. But we would expect the contract would be awarded probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I believe the completion date on the project, it was a kind of a surprise to us. I want to say it's the end of November of next year. So we had anticipated probably 14 to 18 months of construction time, but we're looking at less than a year on it.
There you go.
So we're very pleased with it.
No
Well,
more
with that,
discussion?
with that, I'll make a motion that we approve the supplement request for CDM Smith for $16,833.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the next item is discussion of Knox Area Transit Farragut Express route.
Mayor, this next agenda item, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen approved a budget back in June of this year for the FY13 budget to appropriate $40,000 for the CAT bus route that, which is the 102X express route that runs from Farragut in our commuter park and ride lot straight to downtown Knoxville. At that time, because there was some discussion about trying to get the ridership numbers up, there was a stipulation put on that funding that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen would appropriate $20,000 to be given directly to CAT for services run between July 1st and December 31st. However, to get the remaining $20,000 for the rest of this fiscal year, they needed to increase ridership by over 50%. We requested some numbers from CAT to see where we're at, since this is our only board meeting of December. And so far, through the end of November, they had an increase of only 3.8% over the same time frame from 2011 to 2012. So basically what's before the board tonight is to discuss whether or not you'd like to continue that funding for the rest of the year, partial funding, however that may happen. Cindy McGinnis, the general manager for CAT, is here to answer any questions that the board may have, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions as well. If the board doesn't make any motions at all, then effectively the funding for the route would stop at the end of December.
A question for Ms. McGinnis. Apart from our involvement with this, what is the status of this route, this bus route, relative to how it's doing and what the future might hold for it?
Your question relates to the status of the route. I think without the funding from the town of Farragut, the city of Knoxville would discontinue the route. And the way staff looks at the effectiveness of a route would be in terms of productivity, such as passengers per mile